goodness and gracious. I'm Renee.
I'm Christy. We said we were going to get back into the swing of things, and we haven't really, so we apologize for that. But we're here now, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're trying our best.
We are. We really
busy
are.
around here.
This is busy.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. But this is important too. But just be patient with us. We promise we'll get back on track.
Yep.
So we have been discussing your faith affects your family. And we talked about in the last 2 episodes about who are you? So who are you?
I'm Renee.
Yep, yes you are. I'm Chrissy. We just did this. So.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry.
So who are you in Christ though, Renee? Are you in Christ?
Yes, I'm a daughter of the King.
Yes, you are. So this was an in-depth talk about which side of the fence you're on positionally. There are only 2 sides. Are you lost or are you saved? And this really has everything to do with faith and everything to do with it affecting your family. So those that are saved will go to heaven and hopefully will have a positive effect on their family. And those that are lost will go to hell and will for sure have a negative effect on their family. Now, that is not to say that every single person will have to answer. That is not to say that every single person will have to answer to God for what they believed, the people that you had a negative effect on. Because we're all going to have to give an account to God. Okay, so eventually you're going to be standing on your own faith. When you stand before God, it's going to be what you have believed. But you will have to give an account to God if you had a negative effect on your family. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's scary.
It is very scary. Mm-hmm. It's so scary. And I think that people they forget that everything that you say, everything that you do, I try to reiterate this in my Sunday school class. You'll have to give an account for the good things and the bad things.
That was our message this morning. Some of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was taking care of a
it was in the pastor's message.
Yeah. And I knew it was about wood, hay, stubble, and and it's going to have an effect, and it's going to have a lot to do with what happens to you when this thing is wrapped up. But if you're lost, please reach out to us. We would love to talk to you about how you can fix that, make that right. We are going to move forward now, though, because we talked about who are you. We're going to talk about what are you doing. And at this point, we are addressing those who are claiming to be saved. So we've moved past which side of the fence are you on? Now we're focusing on the ones that claim to be saved. And I say claiming because as we go through this, you may find that you missed an element somewhere and need to go back to the beginning. And that being said, what are you doing? And that's a valid question. I mean, if you're going to have to answer to God for your life eventually, I would think that more people would be concerned with what they are doing with their life right now. I mean, that's just me. One of the great beauties of serving God is that his mercies are new every morning, every single morning. So if you are claiming to be saved and you feel like you're not doing what you need to be doing for God, his mercies are new every morning.
Thankfully.
Yes.
Lamentations 3:22 through 23. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness.
I love that. I just so love it. This means that every day is like a new beginning, a new chance to use that square on the calendar for our good and for his glory. And yesterday can be left behind, it can be forgiven, and it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to follow you. You can leave it in yesterday's square on that calendar, and then the next one can be full of grace and mercy and change.
Well, others can bring it back up into your remembrance, but you can just say, hey, it's under the blood. The Lord's taking care of this. Me and him's got it good. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. It's been paid for. And it really doesn't matter what they say. So we get caught up in what people say and what they like to bring up, but it really doesn't matter. If we're fixed on him, just like Peter, when he took his eye off the Lord on the water, when he was walking on the water, he started to sink. And if we take our eyes off of Jesus and focus on what other people are saying about us and bringing up our past, we're going to sink.
Well, even Satan will try and put those little nudges in there.
Yep.
You know the truth.
Yes, he's very good at that. And like Pastor says, he doesn't like giving him any credit, but Satan is very, very good at what he does. But we are more than conquerors, so we don't have to be defined by that. So he loves us and wants us to grow in him. So like the verse says, it is of his mercies we are not consumed. So he wants us to grow in him, which will cause us to be ever changing. We're always changing. So
if you're not changing, you might want to check yourself.
Exactly. Because, I mean, there's a process to this. It is called sanctification. I love that word. So once you're saved, God expects you to move past the basics and move on to deeper things of him. You can never, ever be productive to him if you are still in the admit, believe, confess phase. He has so much to offer you past the admit, believe, and confess.
So Hebrews 6:1-9, therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, let us go on unto perfection. But, beloved, we are persuaded better things of you and things that accompany salvation.
So he's not saying that we forget altogether what Christ has done and how we so graciously obtained salvation. And it was by his mercy that he, gave us salvation. But he is saying that there are better things to come. Yes, we should remember and never, ever, ever forget that Christ gave his life for yours and that you could spend eternity with him. Never forget that, ever. But if you live in just that state of mind and never move on to what being saved entails, you are missing out on the good stuff. And I would venture to say that God even himself would say the better stuff. You know, I mean, yes, it's great that he came to and died for us and to offer us salvation. But what he has in store for us, we can't even imagine that. And so many people, so many pastors, and so many churches all live in this honeymoon phase of being saved that they miss out on how good the actual marriage is.
They think they've got it good in the honeymoon stage. Yeah. That's not even close.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, and it's good for that time.
Correct.
But you have to move past it. Tom and I have been married for 31 years in October. And it's been a wild ride, but it has been fulfilling. I think if Tom and I had stayed in the honeymoon phase for 30 years in our marriage, we'd be miserable. Yeah. We really would be miserable. There would never have been any kind of depth to our relationship at all. So yes, the beginning is fun, and it's lots of fun. Like when you first get saved, that's fun. You're discovering, so many new things, but it's also a time of sickening immaturity. So I remember how it was. And I told Tom the other day that CJ and Rachel are just now entering the mature phase or, starting on the mature phase of their marriage. And it's fun to watch them interact and see how they have changed in 10 years. The respect, the love, the patience, all of that changes. And it is the same in your relationship with Christ. Jesus died on the cross to save you from hell. That should never get old, ever, ever, ever. It should never get old. And it should always, always, always bring you joy. But Jesus has a plan for your life, and that's the end game. So what's the plan? Even though it looks different for different folks, the gist is you have been made a disciple so that you can go make disciples. It's plain and simple. There's nothing more than that. You can't add to it. You have been made a disciple so that you can go make other disciples. you do this in all different kinds of ways. Some, you don't even realize that you're doing it. But your main mission field is, you guessed it, your family. That's the first mission field that you ever receive.
Had I known all that way back when my kids were little, it would have been different.
Yeah.
I would have did things different.
Yeah.
But
And I think that
it is what it is, and God took care of it for me.
Yes.
In my ignorance.
Yeah, and that's what he does. He does. And we can always look back and we can appreciate that God took care of those things for us. We wish that we would have been different, but like, this is the calendar. Today's the square.
Yep.
And you can't get caught up in the past squares.
Right.
It has to be what's going on today. You know, God he can forgive the past. He knows what lies ahead in the future, but today is your square. You will give an account of how you handled the things that God gave to you. And we all will. There are things that we're going to have to stand accountable for that we're not prepared to. I don't want to stand accountable. I don't want to have to go through that day. But I'm just hoping that there are some things that he had placed in my heart that will help me when I have to give an account for the things that I don't want to have to give an account for. The things that he'll say, this you done well in.
Right.
Thou good and faithful servant. Like, the things that I really stunk at, they're not going to define me in the end. I will still hear those, enter into the joys of the Lord.
Right.
So that should, not really scare us, but it should make us stand at attention. So I don't want to be like, but it should make us stand at attention, the things that he has for us. So Renee's going to read some scripture.
Be patient. This is a long.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I offered to do it.
That's all right. Matthew 25:14-30. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with him. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee, that thou art an hard man, reaping where thou hast not sowed, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, thou hast, that is time. No. Let's try the whole verse over. Okay. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast, that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away, even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. There you go. I did it.
You did very
a little bit of a mess.
No, you did very good.
Okay.
You did very good. I could not have done that well. So this parable, I feel like it should stop us in our tracks, because what God entrusts to us, we should multiply. So in this parable, the ones with 5 and 2 talents went and doubled those. They took what was given to them and they used it for his glory. this is what we should be doing. What God has given us, he saved us. And not only do we get to go to heaven, we get an abundant life here. We need to tell people about this. First to our family and friends, and then to everyone we meet. So in a Sunday school lesson this morning, I found it very interesting. This kind of went along with that. But I was teaching the little kids, the first and second graders. And the story was about the paralyzed man, the man with the palsy, and how his friends, lowered him down. But the lesson for the teacher, before they go to teach a lesson for the kids, said, are you fighting to have everything that it is that God wants you to have and wants you to do and wants you to learn? And are you fighting hard for the ones around you to have that as well? Mm. And I was like, that's stepping on some toes here. You know what I'm saying? And we need to be caring about the people, our friends and family, everyone we meet. Sometimes that is done by what we say. Sometimes it's done by what we do. And sometimes it is our practices that we put into place in our lives. Sometimes we have no idea that we have had an effect on someone. Everyone is watching. We've said
whether you like it or not.
Yes, whether you like it or not. The last servant took what was given to him and he buried it. He told no one. He attempted no kind of growing and prospering of what had been given to him. And in the end, what he had was taken away from him and given to someone else. And I believe that when we get to heaven, the desire to lay whatever we can at Jesus's feet, what Pastor was talking about this morning, will be so overwhelming. Like we will not be able to handle. It would be like an addiction that you're just not able to, curb. It'll be like, I need to have that to lay at Jesus's feet. And what we have done that has lasted through the refining, just like Pastor was talking about, the refining fire will all be all that we have left to lay at his feet. Mm-hmm. And this will consist of what we have multiplied for his glory, using what he originally gave us, which is himself. See, it's not going to be enough to just make it to heaven. Your burning desire will be to give Jesus all that you can. What will you have to show for all that he has done for you? So we're going to get a little closer to the bone on that in part 2. So I would like everyone to, put their seatbelts on for that, because it's going to be, what does that look like? So it's so many times I think we hear messages and we think, yes, I agree with you 100%. What you're saying, I agree with you. However, what does that look like? How does that pan out? In real time, what does that look like? How does this person act? How does that person act? So I think that we're in the next section, we're going to get into what does that look like when someone who is claiming to be saved, but they're doing this, it's not lining up. So are you the person that God gave 5 talents to? Mm-hmm. Are you the person that God gave 2 talents to? Because both of those people, they came out pretty good in the end. Or are you the person that God gave 1 talent to and you done nothing with it? And in the end, when you were told to give an account for what you've done, you had nothing to show for it. Which one are you going to be like? Because we like to think that, all 3 of these people were saved people. However, that's not really the way it is explained there at the end. I mean, is that your take on it? I don't know. But it's weeping and gnashing of teeth sounds a little bit scary. Yeah, but
could be interesting.
Yeah, could be very interesting. So
we shall see. Yeah. Hopefully, it won't be so long next time for our next one.
Yeah, no, we're going to be ready. We're going to get back on track.
Do you think the one with the 1 talent was just so embarrassed because he only got 1 talent, and like maybe he was thinking, I'm just a nobody because I didn't get the 5 or 2 talents. I only got 1 measly little talent.
That could be.
You know what I'm saying?
It could be.
Because, that's how the Christian world is. Like, well, God must love them more because look at, blah, 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 blah.
It didn't end well for him, though. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? It didn't. So we like to think that we're going to have an excuse, you know, when we have to give an account to God for the things in the end, because all of us will, the good and the bad and the ugly. We like to think that we're going to have some kind of excuse, but this person, but that person, but this, but that. God's not going to say, I mean, he's going to say, no, I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned with you. What did you do with what I gave you? You know, and it's like, and we like to think that only the people that go to hell are going to have to give an account, and that's not true.
Right.
And then we can start talking about, well, you know, only the people that are going to heaven are going to have to give an account because, you know, what does it matter? Hell's going to be bad. Yeah, hell's going to be bad, but you're still going to have to give an account for what you've done. Everything that you've done, everything that you said, every idle word.
Right.
You know, everything that you thought that would just be in passing, you know, and it wasn't a big deal, it's going to be a big deal to God.
Well, just like the pastor preached this morning, another plug for him.
Yeah.
He knows your thought anyway.
He does.
You don't have to say it.
He does.
You know, he knows.
Yeah. And I love that
I
scripture.
think we have one of the things he said this morning was like basically, if you're sitting here listening, thinking this pastor's done gone crazy, or you know whatever he said about himself.
Well, he has.
Yeah, I know, but you know that's besides the point. You know what I'm saying? God knows.
Yes.
Or I wish he'd just shut up and sit down. God knows what you just thought. You know.
That's exactly.
I guess
right.
sometimes when I read about tongues, I think of the jobs you have in the church, you know, and I think of, you know, just like Brother Bernie, for instance, he was the door greeter all those years. To me, he was just as important as the pastor.
Yes.
That's just how you hear a lot of times in churches like, well, all I do is this thing in the church. You know, I think every job is important in the church.
It is.
You know, little, big, it doesn't really matter.
And to say that your job
has
isn't
to be done.
Yeah. And to say that your job is not as good as someone else's, or not as big, or is not as important, is to say that God's wrong.
Right.
Like God, you know,
If if you are exactly where God wants you to be in that job at your church, it is very, very important.
Yes.
Now, if you're not supposed to be there, you better be praying and making sure.
Yes.
You know.
And keeping your eyes on Him. You know, I always come back to 6:33. You know, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and then all these things will be added unto you. Keep your focus on Him. When you keep your focus on Him, none of these other things matter.
Right.
He's going to take care of it. And then you'll look around and He will have added things to you that you don't even realize that He added. And you're like, oh, this Christian life is, it's getting pretty abundant over here, you know? So, and I'm not talking about things, I'm talking about what He allows you to be a part of, you know? And I think that's kind of where we're at in the church. We talk about how busy we are, how, you know, busy things have been here, and it's that way. And there's no small ministries. You know, this podcast is a great ministry, and I love doing it. I love the changes that have come about in me from doing it. Okay.
I'm not agreeing. My changes.
She needed some things done.
Me.
But I think that as a church, that's what God has done. I think that it's been preached enough. It's finally gotten through that it's not about us. It's about Him. And when we seek Him and let Him do the adding and let Him bring in the people and let Him do this, that's when we're going to see an effect. And we're going to look around and say, yep, we kept our focus here. And God
We're
added
kind
all
of
these
seeing that
things.
right now.
Yes,
in the church.
we are.
I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
Yes, we are. We absolutely love it. And even in my Sunday school class, you know, we have been praying for God to bring new kids into the church. And last week we prayed that He would bring new kids into the Sunday school class. And then someone shows up. She didn't bring her kids, but she said, I have kids. And I'm like, we're like, yeah, that's great. And then when she walked away, I said, do you not see that that's an answer to prayer? And then when they showed up today, I'm like, can you see? Because we prayed about it again today. Can you not see? This is what God is doing.
And that's got to do something to their little mind and their little hearts. You know what I'm saying? Us as adults, we appreciate it and love it when God answers prayers. But you imagine them. You know what I'm saying?
I can't even hardly contain myself, and they were so good back there. They were so good. And you would think that bringing 4 new kids into a classroom, you know, we hadn't started the Bible reading yet. We had just, you know, been through our prayer requests and prayer and did our pledges and everything like that. You would think that you have 4 young boys. You bring in 4 other kids to that class, that's going to cause some distractions, and not a bit.
Yeah. Kason was so excited.
Yeah, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
And as I'm talking to them, they're fixed on me and they're listening to what I have to say about Jesus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All of them. And you just think that they would be, distracted and whatever, but they weren't. They were so good. And I'm like, God, I can't do that. I can't produce that. Only you can.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying is we have so many things that are going on that are important, and just confirmation really for me today of the important things that are going on, and this podcast being one of them. I am thankful to be able to do this, and I'm thankful for the changes that it's created in me and you and everyone that has listened.
Right.
And
we would just love to hear from you.
Yes, we would. We would love to hear from anyone.
Hey, we could start doing what the NOIC does.
What do they do?
Well, if they get any letters or texts or whatever, read it at the end.
Read at the end? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of a little bit of encouragement. So if you want to
thought maybe there was we're going to have some kind of contest or whatever.
We should have a contest between the two. That'd be funny stuff.
Yep.
But
we're
not competing, but that would be funny.
No.
But we would love to hear from you.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Catch up with us. So, all right. Is that it?
Yep.
We're good. All right. Until next time. See ya.